Good evening. So this is the next step on this restoration of this Pietro 24 bass vintage accordion. So I've done 3 of the reed blocks. So this is one of the bass side reed blocks and the 2 treble side ones. So they've all been revalved and re-waxed but not tuned. That's the 3rd one. There we go. So the next step is the final reed block, which is actually in the bass side, and this one is actually stuck into the bass side of the accordion, and there's not any way of removing this one because it's glued in. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this down and change the camera angle so you can see this a little bit better, and I can explain how I'm going to tackle this one. So here it is. So this is the reed block, which is just actually part of the bass side that's glued in. So rather than taking this reed block out, I have to leave the reed block in, because if I try and take it out I'm just going to wreck the wood because it's all just glued in securely. So I'm going to have to take these reeds out, clean them up, revolve them, and then wax them back in. Now what somebody has done is put 2 strips of wood, one here and one just there, just to give, well, I don't know why they've done it really, to give some kind of support to the reeds, but what it means is that it's going to be quite difficult to get the reeds out with those bits of wood in, and also it's going to be quite difficult to re-wax those reeds in because I won't be able to get the wax down right to the bottom. So what I'm going to do first of all is remove those bits of wood. So I'll just do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that's better. So those bits of wood are just, I'll keep them just in case, but I don't think I'm going to put them back in again. Now before I take these reeds out, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some markings with pencil on the reed block. And I'm going to just, because I've got 8 reeds, and I'm just going to make sure that I've got them back in the right order. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little 1 on this side and a little 8 on this side. And then what I'm also going to do, then I'm going to number these reeds 1 to 8, so when they come out then I know exactly where they go back in again, so I don't get any kind of room for error, because sometimes it can be quite difficult with these lower reeds to actually find where they go back, and so I always number them so that I know exactly where they're going to go back into that reed block. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly number these off with pencil on the reed plates before I take them out, and then I'm going to show you how I get them out. Okay, so they've all numbered off with pencil, so it all comes off again, so I know how to get them out. Now on this reed block there's little pins as well as the wax, so the next job is just to get the pins moved out of the way so that you can get the reeds out. So the easiest way of doing that, I find, just get a little flat blade screwdriver and just push those pins out of the way. Let's just twist them around a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to go around and move all those pins out of the way. I'll just do that and then I'll show you where I am. Okay, so now the pins are out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get a little flat blade and I'm just going to get that blade just between the reed plate and the reed block. Just very carefully lift out the reeds. So I'm going to put all the reeds out. I'm going to put them in order, and just by moving those pins it means that you don't actually risk wrecking the wood. If you try and pull the reeds out with those pins still in place, you'll end up just tearing the wood. So just by turning them around a little bit, all 2 come back together there. There we go. So now I can just very carefully, just in between the reed and the reed block, going to get all those out without damaging the wood. There we go. And because I've numbered them, I know exactly where they're going to go. There we go. So all of those reeds are now out. Now the next step is to start cleaning up the reeds, but I'll do that in a second. I'm just going to put them to one side. And the reed block. Now cleaning up the reed block is a tricky thing because it's fixed in to the base side. And what I don't want is all the bits of wax just getting down onto the pads and then possibly getting into the mechanism. So when I clean it, I'm going to get some blades and knives and different tools. I'm going to turn it upside down like so. So anything that's removed will fall down rather than into the mechanism. So actually, if I just tilt it like that, there we are. So that I can actually do the cleaning with it tilted down, and all the wax then will be falling onto the table rather than going into the base mechanism. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to clean up all of the wax, take the pins out, and then give it a little bit of a sand and get that all nice. And I'll show you what that looks like when I've done it. Okay, so nicely cleaned up, and then just show you my reeds. I have to go down a bit, back a little bit. There they are. These are the reeds. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take all the valves off these reeds, clean off any bits of excess wax, and then these are going to go in the ultrasound to be nicely cleaned. So which is exactly what I did with the other reeds. And because I've numbered them, hopefully the ultrasound won't wash off the numbers, but actually it should be fine. And then I will have those reeds cleaned and ready for valving. So I think the next step is I'll show you these when I have valved them to show you what valves I put on, and then after that the next step is how to wax them back into the reed block. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get these reeds sorted out and get them cleaned and valved just like I did before, and then I'll show you the waxing in. Okay, so ready to start waxing. I've done the reeds and I've just valved them. I've chosen some synthetic 3-layer valves for these big reeds, and for the smaller ones some synthetic 3-layer, slightly thinner, smaller valves there for those. So those are all ready to go. The next step is to wax the reeds in, and because we've got this reed block which is actually glued into the base side of the accordion, the next step is to wax the reeds in with this in situ. And now when I do this, I don't want the wax dripping down into the holes, because that's where the leather pads are for the base side notes. I don't want any wax dripping down onto those leather pads or into the holes where it might just get gummed up and get the mechanism a bit sticky. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm doing the waxing of this side, is I'm going to have the base side angled down, so any wax that will just run away from the mechanism, if you like. So what I'm going to do, I've got my wax heating up in my heater, that's all ready to go, and I'm going to show you how I set this up to do the waxing of this particular reed block. So I'm going to just change the camera position, so I'll just give you a sec. And there we are. So what I've done is I've just rested it on this plastic box, so now I can just kind of safely wax them in and not risk any wax going into the base, onto the base pallets or base mechanism in fact. So that's all ready to go. That's all nicely cleaned up. I've got my reeds arranged in number order from 1 to 8, and I've got the reed block just marked 1 and 8, so I just know exactly which reed goes in which place. Once I have made a bit of a mistake getting them in the wrong order, and it doesn't sound great when you've got trying to play the bass chords and things, it just sounds horrible. So that's all ready to go. So I've got my brushes, just a nice quality modeller's brush. Wait, like that. And the wax is heated up, so I'm going to just do the first one, number 1, wax that in, and then do the same thing all the way along. So let's got my first reed, double checking the number, everything's ready to go. Just get the brush nicely prepared with the wax. Just going to give it a little bit of a clean off there. Okay, and I'm going to start the waxing process. So I'm going to just put a nice thin coating on here. It's actually nice having it like this because it's just a nice stable platform, so you can just do things really accurately. It's not moving anywhere, so I quite like it, and I can just take my time and get that nice. So this is the first one, number 1. Just position that in, push it down into the wax, and then I'm just going to get the brush, just going to go around the reed, like so. Actually, can just move those to one side, and those ones just away from the wax, and then there we are. So I'm going to do that all the way along, and just very careful, and I'll show you the end result in a few minutes when I've got all those 8 reeds waxed into place. So just give me a sec and I'll get that finished. Okay, there we are, all done on that side. If I can just turn it a little bit. There we are, it's all nicely waxed in, looking nice and tidy. So what I'm going to do next is flip over the base side. This time I'm going to just have a slightly different position just so I can get a nice angle, so I'm just going to balance it a bit more like that, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the smaller set of base reeds, again numbered 1 to 8, and make sure they go in the right place. So I'm going to do that one, exactly the same process. So once I've got those waxed in, I'll show you what it all looks like. Okay, so that's all done. So these reeds are now waxed in. Nice and tidy. So that's all the reeds completely waxed in to the reed block. So that's the end of this little video, and in the next one what I'm going to do is to start tackling I'll show you what I'm going to start tackling. Get this bit up. Hang on. What I'm going to do in the next one is have a go at the pallets on the treble side. So I'm going to take all these pallets off, clean them up, put a new facing on them, and glue them back onto the arms. So that's going to be the next video, treble side pallets. So things moving on, and definitely well into this restoration, and can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, thanks for watching.